Hello, everybody, and welcome to our February 11th Zoom event. I am Sean Sheehy. I am the director of the Newberry Book Society. I need to. Welcome. That's a very welcoming beginning. Director of the Movable Book Society. We do these Zooms every quarter. So good to see all of you. I see lots of familiar faces. We've seen you before. Glad for all the folks who are coming here for the first time. Would love it if you would put your country or state of origin in the chat. Kyra is going to pay attention to those things. Co-hosting today, I'm gesturing to her window, which you don't know, is Emily Martin. Emily.
Hello, I'm coming to you from Iowa City, Iowa, where it is very lovely and sunny out. I cannot claim that it is warm.
Right, right. And our chat mistress this afternoon is Kyra Hicks. Kyra.
Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are around the globe. And my name is Kyra, and I'm here in Arlington, Virginia.
Arlington, Virginia. I incidentally am in Chicago. That's why y'all see the starting times as Chicago all the time. We have, as always, a lovely series of folks to give us some information and some entertainment this afternoon. Quick housekeeping. As I keep watching to see who's coming in. If you are having some bouncy reception, it might do you a favor if you turn off your video and just watch us. Sometimes that helps with the bandwidth. And let's get rolling. We are going to start this afternoon, this morning, with longtime German collector Reinhard Tenbrock, who is going to share with us on video. And then he is here, he is available, and he is willing to answer some questions when we're done. So throw some questions in the chat if you want to. We'll address those at the end. Reinhard is also a longtime member of the Movable Book Society. Reinhard, I was looking at our rolls, and you've been a member since 1993, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So you're basically one of the founding members of the society. Long time. It's a long time.
I don't know.
And Reinhard started posting images of his collection early in the pandemic. His account now features 700 unique posts of his pop-up book collection. And as Reinhard shared with us before you all came in, he's barely started. He's got 5,000 plus books that he needs to post. He is pop-up_collector on Instagram. So he's going to talk to us about collecting and sharing his collection with modern media. Emily, let's roll.
All right, here we go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Reinhard Stenbrock, and I'm from Germany and a collector of pop-up books. My collection consists of around about 5,000 books, and I started collecting in 1983. After my eldest daughter Dana was given a reprint of Meggendorfer's Doll's House, and I read the text by Hildegard Krahe on the back of the book and was fascinated by the information given. By the way, here you can see my friend Lothar Meggendorfer and part of my pop-up book collection.
I want to see this if I could.
Yes, okay, I'll look at it later. I'll look at it whenever. It doesn't matter. It's fine.
Oh, I've got those.
Where's Sean? She's here. Emily, that's Emily.
Yeah, I've seen her before.
So do we want to be muted?
Yeah.
Yes, please mute yourselves.
Some of you might know parts of my collections from my daily Instagram and Facebook posts of my pop-up of the day. I took up posting every day about 2
Okay, I got volume. Now I got to figure out the right.
As I stopped working as a teacher in 2018, I now have the time to take a closer look at my collection, choose some favorites and take pictures or even make videos of the books. I have been enjoying that very much so far, and it is especially nice when I notice that some of you seem to enjoy it as well and even add helpful comments or ask questions. You can find me on Facebook as Reinhard Denbrock and on Instagram as popup_collector. I would now present you some special books of my collection. First, I like to present you the eldest book of my collection. It's called Bunte Szenerien aus dem Menschenleben from Leopold Cimani, and it's printed in 1836 in Vienna. It has only one pop-up scene, but it's a beautiful landscape, as you see, with some people. Two of the people has lost their heads, unfortunately. The second book I choose for you is the Sprechendes Bilderbuch, or Speaking Picture Book, from Theodor Friedrich Otto Brandt, printed in 1878 in Germany. The book is in a wooden box, and the pictures show different animals. On each page, there's a little fuse, and arrow shows where you have to pull the string to make the noise that the animal represents. The next page is the donkey. And the lamb. The next one are birds. The cow. The cuckoo. And mom and dad. I opened the book for you that you can see the mechanism that makes all these noises. And if you imagine that this is more than 140 years old and still in function, it is so fascinating to see the mechanism. Look, the first one here, the pump mechanism. The second one is here in the front. The third one is this. Fourth. Now I would like to show you a pull tab book from 1926. It's called Snow White, as you can see. And it's from Hildegard Langen, printed in Germany in Stuttgart. The book has wonderful colors and it has also text like it is printed in the Jugendstil area or Art Nouveau area. And it has wonderful pull tabs and seems like painted with watercolors. And there are pull tabs on nearly every second page. So beautiful, and even the text is very nice. Here's the lady with the apple and Snow White, of course. The old lady is so angry that she's running to the hell, as you see. This book is one that's never been on the market and you couldn't buy it in a bookshop. It's called Freedom from Carla Elizabeth Walker, and it is published by the Peter Norton family as a Christmas gift in 1997. The book has wonderful art from Carla Walker. It has also special letters only made for this book. And beautiful artwork done by laser cut. And this book was one of the best deals I ever made because I purchased it for $8 on eBay. And it was so impressive and terrific that when I got it a few days before Christmas. And yeah, I'm so glad to have it because you can't buy it. The last book I choose for you is Birdscape, one of my favorites. It's paper engineered from Jean Fosso, René Jablot, and Andy Barrett, and the illustrations are made by Julia Hargraves. The book is a sound book, and it shows North American birds in their habitat. The sound is in stereo. And you can learn so much about animals in North America, special birds. And there's a lot of text, and you can learn a lot about all these animals you've seen before and heard before. And it's such a great book with great pop-ups and great sounds. Finally, I want to show you what I started to do 2 years ago. I create paper art, three-dimensional paper art, and there are 2 examples of it. This one is called Round Corners, and this one is called Shall I? But all in all, that's another story. Thank you for today, and have a nice day. Bye.
Super. Thank you, Reinhard. We sadly were waiting to hear all those great sounds. And as folks have been mentioning in the chat, Zoom is acting like it's doing us a favor and filtering them all out. But obviously what's more astonishing than that is picking up a Kara Walker for $8. I don't know if you heard the collective gasp. Wow. Right, and the gasps continue. Also, some nice comments on the just that lovely antiquated mechanism, antique mechanism from that first book that you showed us. It was fun to watch those bellows move, even if we couldn't hear what the cow was saying.
Okay.
Here's one. What are the contemporary pop-ups that you collect, Reinhard?
Now I am collecting mostly the special pop-ups with great, great mechanism, and only special ones, not all. In the first years, I tried to get all pop-ups I can find, because it was so hard to find them on the market or in a shop, in a bookshop. Mostly I went to bookshops and to flea markets to find them, but it was very difficult to find them there. And after eBay was founded, it was easier for me. I live on the countryside, so it's not, I'm not able to visit bookshops in big cities or so, only in when I travel around the world. And now I'm collecting only special ones.
Gotcha. It seems like a good strategy, especially since you have 5,000 already.
Yes, that's the next problem. The space is not so big to put them all in shelves, and it's very difficult to leave them here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Super. Reinhard, thank you very much for sharing that presentation.
You're welcome.
So much for joining us today, this evening. And let's slide on over to our next speaker, who is Suzanne Carr-Schmidt. I went to Suzanne's Instagram account to pull some biographical information because many of you have heard from Suzanne before. She was our keynote speaker at the 2021 conference in Denver. She participated in the very first Zoom that we did during the pandemic. Suzanne is the curator of rare books and manuscripts at the Newberry Library. She is a mom. She is the Jackson Pollock of meal prep. She studies interactive art. She has a PhD. Her Twitter is @Dr. Carr-Schmidt. She is, this isn't on her Instagram account, but she's also a maker and wearer of pretzels and a recent snow skiing aficionado. And Suzanne is with us today because she's curating an exhibition for the Newberry Library that opens next month that promises to be super, super fun. So Suzanne, I'm spotlighting you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna just share my screen because I need pictures. I'm an art historian.
Yeah.
I did do my dissertation on pop-up books, though the cutoff at 1700 means I have so much to learn from this group, and doing an exhibition that starts from 15th century things in the exhibit, but we mentioned the really early ones, from the 12th century on, but going all the way up to now really meant that I got to learn a great deal from this. I'm going to put the I'm going to put the website in the chat, which is very, very bare bones at this point. Let me see if I can share my screen. Yes. And hold on. There we go. Yeah. So yeah, there's me. We're actually doing a lenticular postcard, which I'm really excited about, with the Meggendorfer heads there, which is one of two Meggendorfer. Well, it's the only real Meggendorfer we have. We have we have one of the pull downs of Buffalo Bill, but that's sort of contested, and that will be in the space as well. Anyway, so here's the website. A lot of you will recognize the Robert Sabuda version, actually pop-up version of the Matthew Paris Volval from around 1250. So that's actually ended up sort of activating the idea of really early Volvals being cool and interesting to a lot. We have a team of graphic designers, and they latched onto that as something that they thought would appeal to people who like modern design as well as the old stuff. And I'm usually in the old stuff camp, so anywhere I can sneak in a reference to the earlier history, the better. All right. So yeah, there it is on the front of the book that the Movable Book Society made a few years ago. I have to say I am extremely grateful to Movable Book Society for being one of the funders for this exhibition. So anyone who wants to come to Chicago, let me know. I can pull out a few extra things while you're there. The show is not enormous. I mean, it is a relatively small gallery space, but we have a sort of an introductory room and then a large room full of not only pop-up books and prints, but also maps in this really, really unusual way. So we're really looking at paper in 3 dimensions from the beginning until now. All right, the first thing that I wanted for the exhibition was to basically be hit by a ridiculous amount of color as you go into the space. So this is on the bottom is actually the facsimile of the Peter Appian Astronomicum Caesarium from 1540, but we are borrowing the real thing from the University of Chicago, as it turned out. Long story, it used to belong to the Newberry, but it was very, very brief. And then there's the sort of Meggendorfer Buffalo Bill in the back there, which we do have. And though it was literally produced for children in the 1890s, has some more modern issues of depictions. So we're gonna try to contextualize that a little bit. Oh yeah, here's the University of Chicago Astronomicum Caesarium. This is one that does have the seed pearls on those lovely, shiny colored threads. You can sort of see a couple in the middle there. But the Newberry actually has 20 plus a few bits of Peter Appian, who is this mathematician, sort of astronomer, navigator guy in Germany. And while he made the fancy one for the emperor, it got him a nobility, you know, his children were legitimized and so forth. The ones that really went into a lot of editions were this Cosmographia book from 1524 on. And I'm showing you the first edition over on the right with a little bit of hand coloring, an extra kind of nocturnal timekeeping dial added here. There's a, and it sort of goes around, I'm basically trying to show all 5 of the moving instruments in this one book because we've got so many of them. That didn't mean it went smoothly. There were some issues with the cases we have, so I couldn't show every single book that we had. The ones that are in vellum, we couldn't actually show for climate reasons. So I'm gonna show you now instead that 2 of the copies of the book that we have these wonderful little lead weights on the strings. Has anyone ever seen lead weights on the strings of a 15th or 16th century book? It's basically to help you like improve the calculating. It holds it steady. In this case, it's a sundial you're supposed to turn upside down in a way. It's really complicated. I'm bad at it. But in a way, I think because there are only 5 copies of this book that I've found so far in the world over many, many different editions that still have these lead weights, I actually think it's more exciting that we have those than the dinky little seed pearls that you may or may not be able to see on that sort of orange thread over in the corner from the big shiny version. So anyway, so we take our bells and whistles where we can, and I will definitely be glad to show anyone who wants to see the lead weights, the actual ones, and to be able to touch them, or as much as you want to touch a piece of lead, because they'll be out of the case. All right, I'm talking a lot about the problems when you don't construct something properly. This is Robert Dudley, who's kind of like a pirate. Apparently my video is not working very well. I'm just showing you a fold out of him trying to look like he's a fancy person. But basically on the right is this one of the Volvels in his book, and you can see how big it was compared to the book block, and the fact that, I mean, who could use a Volvel that's been folded over into itself 3 or 4 times? I mean, and I did have a little bit of a discussion with conservation over how messy it could be on view for 4 months. So it may be a little flatter, unfortunately, than this in the end, but I'm hoping we'll still get a sense of the mismatch of the binder and the designer, and just how sometimes the ambition for moving parts doesn't always mesh with the reality of the history of the book. All right, we are gonna have a wall of maps. We are trying to make a facsimile life-size of a unique surviving copy of this sort of terrestrial map. I just showed you one of the gores. I repeated it because I was lazy, but it is a full map by Giulio Sanuto. Doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. We have an amazing collection of those, and they just haven't been on view. We're also going to have a little monkey 15th century facsimile that's been blown up to way big oversized, and the little center bit. I don't know if you can see my pointer, but the little center almost band-aid on the monkeys on the left switch, so they look like they're turning acrobat style on the horse. But it'll be in full color, and anybody will be able to go play with it. So there'll be things throughout the exhibition that people can touch, which I think is really important. We got flaps too, obviously. I'm trying to make some connections across time between a 17th century book about sort of an armchair religious experience of going to a holy mountain in Italy where St. Francis of Assisi spent a lot of time. You can see that you can actually move the mountains on the top left there. And then on the bottom right, because the Newberry has really wonderful indigenous collections and actually quite a lot of children's books relating to the Americas and indigenous experience, I bought a pop-up book about the Virgin of Guadalupe as encounter with, in this case, I think is a shepherd. And so I like seeing that you're still using paper engineering to tell this story of this devotional moment. I think a couple of years ago, Sean, did you tell me about this book? I think you told me about this book.
Possible.
Yeah. I think I bought it because you mentioned it, but which is great. I love the collaboration going on, and we'll get to that a little more in a bit. So anatomy always gross out fun. We have a video in the space that's a little less rough than this, but it actually shows a shaft of light coming through the oculus in a really nice way if you catch it. So I think it's actually even nicer than showing the flaps coming down like that. But so this is sort of both the do-it-yourself, cut out the organ parts that you see with the Vesalius on the left versus the full color oversized eyeball that you probably would never expect to have to put together yourself. All right, so there's a little nudity here. I don't know if anybody cares, but look away if so. We have a really wacky 19th century manuscript copy of the Roman de la Rose from one of our earliest collections. It came in the 1890s. And if you don't know what the Roman de la Rose is, it's basically an early romance about courtly love, and it sort of centers around the allegory of one particular untouchable flower. And whoever put together this book, it looks a little more touchable than that. So here's a Venus in the front, a little after a Titian painting. And then in the back, you get another bouquet of flowers, very appropriate. And then here's another naked lady. So I'm going to do a adults only night talk about forbidden pop-ups. So she'll be in that. We're doing actually a facsimile version of the Lady and the Flowers too. So I'm excited about that. We're looking at some other formats like blow books. This is one of my favorites in the collection. I think probably because Ricky J taught me how to do it. I happened to meet him and got him to come to the Newberry, and he explained that the last time he was there, the librarians wouldn't let him actually flick the book, the blow book. So I was really glad we were able to see him, bring the panache to it that was necessary. So there's a lot about Chicago in the show. So this is the exposition, a lot about taking books apart. That's Aaron Sinister on the left with some extremely naughty kitten children, which I'm going to have in a case with a whole bunch of so-called unterrible books. So books that were printed on fabric or otherwise laminated in ways that were really supposed to make them foolproof, but as we'll be able to see more or less, depending on how much conservation cleans them up, it's really hard to enjoy a book without destroying it. I mean, whether it's pop-up or not. So I'm trying to bring together some ideas about, what's proper usage for a book in the 19th century. So you see, we're getting more and more modern as I'm talking. A book I really wish we could have put in the exhibition was Sean's wonderful. We'll look at all of the, weird things in a swamp. I love this book. That paper is so gorgeous. It wouldn't have stayed up for the whole time. And then Hannah Batzel's unique carousel book with stained glass in it will also be in there. Although I've just learned that since we can't use this video that I took of her opening it, we actually can't even use the video because no one could show it off like the artist, basically. So I just wanted to end with one of probably my favorite thing about the exhibition is that we're doing a takeaway. And because the Newberry's budget is relatively modest, we are not expecting, we obviously didn't have the resources to pay to have this turned into a pop-up, in China. So we're letting visitors to the exhibition do it themselves. So what I'm showing you on the right is the back and the front of this amazing imaginative take on the Newberry that Sean and Hannah Batzel, our good local Chicagoan artist book friend, designed and put together. And there are so many, it's a love letter to the Newberry. It's just wonderfully detailed in terms of collection items and locations in the building. Oh yeah, it builds this. And this is a relatively, this is one of the proofs where we printed 6,000 of them, but they haven't been laser cut and we're gonna get them soon. But yeah, and here's, I think my favorite detail is that I asked if we could have the little archway to nowhere on the side of the building where the architect sort of like threw up his hands at one point and said, if you're not gonna build it the way I want, I'm going to leave it unfinished. And basically they said, fine, we can buy some books then. So I love that. We really love that we have this detail in there. So yeah, so there's, Emily Martin is going to be a fellow during the exhibition at the Newberry. We'll be giving a workshop. Sean's doing a workshop. There'll be a whole lot of exhibition tours with me and a lot of docents. And I think it's going to be a really good time and really dig into a lot of different aspects of the history of pop-up books. It's not exhaustive. There's no way you could do justice to every single mechanism or time period in the amount of space, even if we had 5 times as much. But I'd be happy to show anyone who wants to see an alternate version of the exhibition, as because I thought about a lot of different iterations. So yeah, so does anybody have any questions? This is just really a lot of different things going into this, and I really hope people will love it.
Suzanne, can you unshare your screen, please?
Absolutely.
And there are indeed some questions.
Yeah.
One of them.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that yet. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll ask you, Suzanne. You don't have to.
Okay. I see. Anyway, yes. We're only printing about 500 of the lenticular cards, but that there's nothing in the exhibition galleries right now. So we're trying to drum up a little interest. If anyone squeaks up and says, "Oh, but what, don't you have anything I can look at?" And we're going to hand them a card. So.
I also want to say super quick while you're naming names, the Isabel, our own Isabel Uria.
Yes, Isabel has been very helpful.
Production manager for getting the thing printed and cut and everything, and she's doing a bang up job.
Yeah, just despite the Newberry never having done this before, we've definitely interjected a lot of additional steps into the final process. Let's just say that. So it's going to be great.
Be a wonderful piece. It's going to be a wonderful piece. So
Yes.
very excited.
Thank you so much for your help.
I'm very excited to see it come to fruition.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for scale, I have one here. So it just, yeah. I don't know if we can, how well you see it, but yeah, so it's actually pretty big. So yeah, and I just got decent permanent double-sided tape in the mail. So I was fixing that right before we got going. So I think, yeah, but there's a lot of, I think people will be able to do it.
Yeah. Emily, do you want to throw one of the questions out there?
Yeah, there were several. I think it was Kyra wanted to know when the eyeball was published. That was
that's 19th century, 1870s. I can look up the exact date.
Yeah.
He did a whole series. There are a number of different other body parts. Oddly, one of which in the Newberry collection I've never seen. It must have wandered off. I think it was the ear. Yeah.
And there were several questions about the blow books, and I know that there was also kind of a definition and more information put in the chat, but
yeah, I see Amanda Jeffries asking about a plumb line. Yeah, that's basically one of the functions of the literally lead addition to the to those cosmography sundials. And I love the fact that one of the editions even gives you a picture of where it should go. Not everybody put one on there, but it really suggested, that there's something missing. Yeah.
And if you have trouble with those plumb lines, Suzanne, then there's no hope for the rest of us.
Yeah, I mean, I'll figure it out by the time the show opens.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to getting there and getting my hands on all your giveaways.
Oh, yes. Well, we'll make sure you got a full set.
Do we want to do one more, Emily?
Can
Can I say something about cotton gloves? It's actually the worst possible thing for delicate books. It's really, if you can't feel where your fingers are, you're going to tear things. And I think with pop-ups and multiple moving parts, you just have to give up. So yeah, clean, dry hands is the library standard right now. Okay. I can point you to a lot of videos and a lot of online content about it, but it's a big discussion, and I'm really glad that we can touch the things. It's really what the Newberry does best, is letting people come in from 9th grade and up, get a reader's card, and look at whatever the heck they want. So yeah.
Yeah, and all those the facsimiles that you're putting in the exhibit are really great, so that people can handle the things that in their actual piece would be fragile.
Yeah, I wonder if anybody here has put together a large globe from Globe Gores, because it is definitely turning into a very difficult problem, as it historically was, but I'm hoping we'll still pull it out. I think we may be delegating it to professionals.
Yeah, I mean, I have a little experience with that, just because every once in a while I have a student who's like, I'm going to make a globe. And it's always been a struggle, every single time.
Yeah, they don't realize it. So yeah,
complicated. Part of it is just that you're making a dimensional space, and you're trying to put pressure where you don't have any means to do that. So it can be done, but it falls into the category of what I call super fiddly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it may not be perfect, but hopefully we'll get one up high enough that nobody uses it as a piñata.
Right.
At least until the after party.
Yeah.
There is an actual wonderful design. Don't remember I just saw a post about it. It's a globe from, I can't remember. It's from the book that has, it's the whole world. He designed it years and years ago, and it's very accurate, and it perfectly works as a globe. But what he ended up doing, what the paper engineer ended up doing, is they double enforced the spine that opens it. So it really holds it upright, and they use the diagonal to hold it so that it tenses it up and makes it perfectly round. But it is a very tricky design.
Yep.
Well, Suzanne, it looks like we're going to have a lot of people coming to Chicago next month, and they're all going to be in there touching your books. So
good.
Get ready. Get the
We'll
soap.
do it.
Thanks, Suzanne. Thanks very much for that teaser. I can't wait to see the show. I can't wait to see the show.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah. All right. So we got a conference coming up. This year in September. We're going to meet in Cleveland, and it's going to be amazing. Larry Ragow, who's in one of these little windows here, give us a little wave, Larry. And Isabel, give us a little wave. Our co-chairs for the conference. And we're gonna have a couple little teasers here right now and find out a little bit about what's going to be happening at the conference. And we're going to start with Jody Coates. Let me get a quick sip of water here.
Hello. Yes, I'll take over, Sean, whilst you cough into your water.
Let me give you a couple few words. Yeah. So Jody's a PhD student at the University of Cambridge, working within the education faculty and the Center for Research in Children's Literature at Cambridge. Her PhD thesis explores the remediated pop-up book, how the pop-up book format is used to create immersive, interactive environments in contemporary video games, VR, and children's story museums in the UK. Jody, take it away.
Oh, thanks very much. I'm going to share my PowerPoint slides. Let me just get them up. There we go. I think we're in. All good. Okay. Hello, everybody. Thanks very much for having me here this evening. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Jodie Coates. I am a PhD researcher at the University of Cambridge, and I work within the Centre for Research in Children's Literature at Cambridge, which is part of the Faculty of Education. But we're kind of our own little separate group who basically just study all sorts of children's texts, including picture books and like young adult novels and that sort of thing. But for my thesis, I chose to start research in movable books because I really just appreciate and enjoy the artistry of movable books and also like their potential for like theatrics, basically. But I don't actually work with movable book objects particularly. So I look more at the format and the function and the paper engineered devices of the movable book, and then look at how they surface or how they're utilized in lots of non-book media in the 21st century, which is why I have this working title of, oh, what a novelty, because the idea is that I'm looking at sort of new and innovative ways of exploring what a novelty book is in different media. So to explain a bit further, this is basically what my thesis is looking like at the moment. I'm trying to hand in by the end of this year, so it's sort of in process. But I've got 3 sections that all look at a different type of media form, and I'm basically hunting for pop-up books or movable books within those bits of media. So section 1, I've called it movie movables. So I'm looking at the pop-up book as it appears in children's animated film. So you get to watch the pop-up book on the screen and see how narratively it performs with the characters of the story. In section 2, I'm looking at, well, I call it pop-ups and power-ups because I'm looking at the pop-up book in video games. So how you get to play with a pop-up book in kind of an abstracted way through a gaming interface. So lots of different, PlayStation and on your phone and on a tablet and all that sort of thing. And then finally, in my 3rd section, I'm moving away from digital and back to physical spaces and what I call bookscapes, which are basically like architectural environments that make you feel like you're walking inside a book. So I've got a few case studies, one that's a museum exhibit, one that's a theme park ride, and one that's a theatre show. So I'm not going to go like too deep into all of the academic theory that I'm trying to fit into this project, but this is the theory that underlies all of my research, which is the theory of remediation. It was developed in the 90s by Bolter and Grusin, and it's basically just a way of helping you interrogate the representation of one media in another and see the ways that they speak to each other and play with the different media forms. So it's not really about a story being translated across lots of media, it's about the media itself speaking to each other. So I've got an example here of how the pop-up book and a video game might be remediated. In the bottom left is Pixel City Pop by El Modi. It was published in 2018. So you can see that there's a remediation of the like aesthetics of pixel art in video games into the paper and ink of the movable page, and like platform gaming into the parallel folds and all that kind of thing. And then on the flip side, you've got something like Tengami, which is a computer game in which a game developer has modeled an imaginary pop-up book that they've like fictionalized in the in 3D modeling to make an arena for you to play within. And in this game, we have to turn the pages to complete the puzzle and move around the pop-up book by pointing and clicking. So that's just some example of the things I'm hunting for. So yes, we're going to stop with the theory there. And I thought today I'd just share with you basically my corpus. So the text that I have found in my journey, my thesis journey so far. So in section 1, movie movables, I've actually started with Disney just because they're so prolific and they've got quite like a cultural influence, especially in like the children's media world. And I was aware that a lot of Disney films start and end with an animated magical book opening. It's kind of like a movable in itself. But I wanted to see if Disney had sort of incorporated recognizable paper engineered devices on top of just like a magical book. And it turns out that they did. So I have found 8 Disney films that all have a movable book element to them. It is still normally at the beginning and the end. Sometimes it's somewhere in the middle. And they're all just using like the disruptive, playful potential of the pop-up book, often for Disney to poke fun at itself and its own tropes. One in particular is the Enchanted movie in 2007. They actually employed a paper engineer, Bruce Foster, to make an actual pop-up book, which was then turned into a CGI simulation. So it feels really real on screen. And it's kind of, because I mean, if you've seen Enchanted, they sort of play between the line of what's imaginary and what's real and what's animated and what's, you know, live action. Yeah, so there's quite a lot of fun ones here. Probably not lots of time to go through them all today, but do look them up. Myth: A Frozen Tale is a spin-off of the Frozen films, and it uses a papercraft design to make a movie that you can actually experience in virtual reality as well. So that's bringing you right up to the current day. The very cutting edge technology. And so in the second half of my movie movables section, I'm doing like a deep dive, much closer analysis of these three beautiful films. So we've got Paddington 2 in 2017, Mary Poppins Returns in 2018, and Wendell and Wild, which is the new Henry Selick stop motion, just come out. It's brilliant, Wendell and Wild. And these all actually use real paper engineers who make the models first, and then they collaborate with the different studios to create the story on screen. So we've got Peter Dahmer, who did Wendell and Wild, and there's a really good article in Movable Stationery recently. Go and give it a read. It's fascinating to read about his process of making that amazing fairground. And then David Hawcock, who I think I saw in the chat was responsible for the globe that we've just been talking about. He was also, him and his team worked on Paddington 2 and Mary Poppins Returns. And I'm also looking a little bit at the soundtracks as if it was like an orchestration of the pop-up book. I'm trying to work out whether some instruments and motifs give us an emotional resonance to the pop-up book when it appears on screen and that sort of thing. So my section 2 is pop-ups and power-ups. These are playable digital versions of pop-up books. I'm trying to stay away from like e-picture books and digital picture books like this one that's on screen now, Pop Out, The Tale of Peter Rabbit. These have like hotspots you can use on a touch screen. You can like touch a tab and move it back and forth to like illustrate the scene, which are great, but there's actually quite a lot of academic research on that already. And I think when I'm looking at video games that are not pretending to be books, you get some more sort of abstracted interactions and more interesting representations of what pop-up books are sort of culturally, as well as how you might read or play with them. So I actually found so many video games that had pop-up books in them. I was quite surprised how many there were. This first little lot romanticize the movable book. There's a lot of pastel colors or bright primary colors. It's often quite childlike, magical, kind of some notes of Christmas, where it emerged from the market, some Victorian-esque aesthetics as well. Sometimes you can collect them and in-game and display them ornamentally, or it's quite a slow-paced puzzle. And with Papercraft and Time Princess, they're both narrative games, so it sort of frames the narrative like choices that you make in a literary dimension, which is pretty cool. So there's all these nice sort of fluffy pop-up book remediations. And then what I found is that they also remediate the pop-up book to create scenes of horror. And some of these games are actually quite violent. The Batman Arkham Knight game is an 18+, so it can get quite bloody and gory at times. But it's kind of, you know, playing on that Victorian-esque gothic antique nature of the book, of the pop-up book. And yeah, these are, I love all of these. Pretty scary, but also very beautiful in their own way. And then finally in that section, I'm looking at some video games that really blur the boundaries between digital and analog, and try to bring papercraft into the game itself. So there's the Tearaway games, where in-game, if you collect like some of the paper tokens in-game, you can get a code and then go to a website, put the code in, and then you can download a PDF flat lay, basically, of the token that you collected in-game, print it off at home, cut it out, stick it together, and then you can actually have like the physical paper crafted item in your home, which you've sort of won in the video game. I also look a little bit at virtual reality and augmented reality. And one of my favorites is the Curious Alice VR, which uses the like style of an Icelandic paper crafter called Christiana S. Williams, and then maps that onto 3D modeled interactive virtual reality objects. So you really feel like you've fallen down the rabbit hole into a digital pop-up book. And then finally, section 3, I look at what I'm calling bookscapes, these landscapes that seem to have a bookish feel about them. This is probably my least developed, but maybe the most interesting one that I'm looking at. So the first case study is the Alice Curiouser and Curiouser exhibition at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London that was on last year. And it was like a series of about 10 rooms with lots of immersive elements, lots of different artifacts on display. One room in particular that really caught my imagination was this corridor of doors that look like they're illustrated. They're kind of made out of white wood with the etchings on. So it feels already like you're in this 2D, 3D pop-up book space. But at the end of the corridor where there's a door, you can look through the keyhole. And instead of seeing a beautiful garden like Alice does in the books, you see this like perspective box, paper crafted garden that's all lit by this warm light. So you're in the book and you're also experiencing papercraft. And then the other really cool thing is they had a takeaway. So they had an activity sheet that was given out to children and also me as a researcher. And as you walked around the space, it gave you instructions on how to fold it. So by the end of the exhibit, you ended up with your own little white rabbit that you could take home and decorate, which I thought was a really nice touch. I'm also looking a little bit at theme parks. There's a book themed environment in a theme park called Alton Towers in the UK. David Walliams is a really popular children's author here. And I thought it was quite fitting that for the launch of the park, they used a pop-up book to advertise that. And there's also like a 4D ride called Gangster Granny, which I think involves some pop-up elements that I'll be looking into when I get to my analysis. And then finally, because I had Lewis Carroll and David Walliams, who are both very well-known like children's authors, I thought, why not find one more and another form of bookscape? So I came across Philip Pullman's, an adaptation of a Philip Pullman book called The Book of Dust, La Belle Sauvage, which is the like prequel to his children's book series, His Dark Materials. This was on at the Bridge Theatre, again in London, last year in 2022. And they have these beautiful puppets. I mean, there's a lot of symmetry between puppets and pop-ups anyway, but they look like they're crafted out of paper. All these animals, they're designed by a really good puppeteer called Barnaby Dixon. And the set itself was very digitally sophisticated, but it also looks a lot like illustration. So again, it's this 2D, 3D perspective, inside the book, pop-up-esque kind of bookscape. So yeah, that's everything I've got so far. That's my corpus of all my ideas. If you think you can think of anything that fits, do let me know. There's my email there and my Twitter. And thank you very much for having me, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Sue,
There was a question about some of the paper engineers, and I know you named some of them, David Foster for Enchanted, but one of them, one of the questions was whether you knew the paper engineer for Noelle.
No, I don't, not yet. So if anybody knows, do let me know.
That Duncan Birmingham was the puppet consultant for Tengami.
Oh, great. Yeah, thanks. This is good stuff.
Engineer that we all know and love from our Zooms. And so Kyra has put in a lot of information of things that you've mentioned, you know, links to David and also the Victoria and Albert exhibit. I think you can see that online, and then some sort of related information. And just a reminder, everybody will be able to access the chat if you're furiously copying things down. We save that and it gets sent out with the notice. And there's a question as to whether you will share your final paper with the Movable Books Society's newsletter, or perhaps a synopsis.
Yeah, happy to
stay in touch with you on that one. And Nicole Edworthy says that Lego has done a pop-up book.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like a beanstalk, Jack and the Beanstalk, like fairy tale one. That I was going to do a section on like pop-up books remediated into toys, because there's a few like bookish ones, but not quite enough to make a chapter. But the Lego one is very, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's one other question that has come in from Seth Berg. He is curious whether he likes your 3 categories, but he wonders if there are other possible categories in the phase that you considered. Did you have to?
So toys was one. Also advertising in general, because there's a lot of like CGI animated pop-up books in that. More broadly, like I literally see pop-up books everywhere now, remediated things into like advent calendars and into like, into soap. I saw a soap pop-up book once and that kind of thing. So there's a much like broader scope, but I'm trying to keep it in the children's media realm for this work. But yeah, it's got some legs on it, I hope.
There
Yeah.
also were a couple of suggestions for you,
Yeah.
Jody, that were thrown in that chat, which we'll forward that to you so you can consider them. Or
Yeah, thank you. I will add them
like.
in. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think
Super.
Kyra also found a link to the Follow the Rabbit little takeaway. If for those of you wishing you had one of your very own, I think you can follow that link and make one. So as I say, the chat will be available for everybody, so you can track down all the links that Kyra's been putting in for us.
And
In
like,
about 2 weeks.
I had a quick question for Jody regarding the category of when you look at gaming with paper stuff, are you looking at games that use pop-ups, or are you also looking at pop-ups that illustrate games in all kinds of varieties?
So for this chapter, I'm just looking at wherever I can find a pop-up book in a game. So there's a lot of like paper crafted games or paper aesthetics, but they don't have that like book. They don't have the codex, the pages at the bottom, and that is not framed as being like trapped inside a book. So for this one, trying to keep it as narrow as possible, those. But yes, I did a little presentation at a conference last year about, the arcade in general remediated into pop-up books, and I found a few there as well. But that's another paper for another day. But yeah, hope that answers your question.
And
Super.
I unfairly credited Kyra with putting in some of the links. Kyle Ullman is also throwing in links, so I want to thank Kyle. I don't read very clearly sometimes.
But with big heart.
Yeah.
Super. Thanks, Jody, so much.
Thank you.
Jody's going to be in the US in September. Come to the conference. Come to the conference. Next, we are going to feature a video put together for us by Benjamin Sapp, who is the director of the Mazza Museum at the University of Findlay in Ohio. And it's not very far from Cleveland. So that's going to be our destination for the Sunday post-conference activity, which lands on October 1st. Ben is a graduate of the University of Findlay on both the undergraduate and the graduate levels, specializing in children's literature within the field of education. Ben will be our host and our tour guide on October 1st, if I understand that all correctly, Larry and Isabel. Emily, I'm gonna spotlight you and let's take a look at that video.
All right. We will watch Ben's video.
Good afternoon. My name is Ben Sapp, director of the Mazza Museum here at the University of Findlay. I appreciate this opportunity to share with you just a brief bit about the Mazza Museum, with the hopes that on October 1st, you will consider coming to the Mazza Museum as a part of the conference that you'll be attending in Cleveland. So I just thank you for this opportunity. I am right now in the middle of the Leho Gallery, which is a gallery dedicated to paper engineering. Behind me are Matthew Reinhardt's works of art. Matthew is one that creates pop-up books in the world of picture books, and has been a dear friend of the museums for many years. So let me give you a brief history. I will share the screen here, and we'll take a look at the Mazza Museum and what it's about. So the Mazza Museum is the world's first and largest collection of original artwork from picture books. It started at the University of Findlay in 1982, 100 years after the university started. And as the 100th anniversary, the president asked each college to do something new or unique. that might be around for 10 years to celebrate the anniversary. A man by the name of Dr. Jerry Mallett, professor here in the College of Education, always believed that there should be a place that gives recognition to the artist and the artwork from picture books. And so he met with Dr. August and Alida Mazza. They were Findlay College alums back in 1941, and they gave the seed money to start the collection back in 1982. Their dream was if somehow the museum could acquire at least one new work of art a year, it would be something to celebrate. And today we have over 19,000 original works of art from artists from all over the world. This is what you see when you come into the museum. You will find original works of art displayed, about 350 of those around the gallery or the museum, in each gallery, along with a book for which the artwork was made for, on a book rail that goes all the way around. So you can pick up the book and then see the original hanging above it. So in our system today, we have 18,623 original works of art. We just acquired about 1,700 original works from Arthur Geisert. So those are being added into this number and into the collection on a daily basis. We have 375 artist DVDs or video recordings of them talking about themselves, as well as the artwork that they have created that we have here as a part of our permanent collection. Last semester, we had 29 university courses that use the museum as part of their coursework. One that I'm most excited about is the School of Occupational Therapy. They are using picture books and the art from it to take individuals with dementia and Alzheimer's back to a time in their lives that they can remember. And then they are illustrating those memories on paper. We have those displayed then just outside of the museum doors. Last year, we had 5,000 school children that came through on formal docent-led tours. Last year, we had 21 different visiting author illustrators here that gave presentations to the public, the college, and to many different school children as they visited. We had over 6,000 volunteer hours that took place last year. Much of what we do would not happen without the support and help of many volunteers in our community and surrounding communities. And because of those hours, it enables us to provide many educational programs for children and adults, 47 different educational programs. And last year we had 291 events in that year. A special guest, sometimes folks want to know and are not sure who the museum is really for. And we say that it is really for anyone of any age. This young man is a junior high student whose biggest fan was Rosemary Wells. He could tell you more about her than she could probably tell you about herself. He knew the years that she had children, and those years she created fewer books. But she's the creator of Max and Ruby, and he just loves her work and the literature and the art that she creates. I shared this with Rosemary, and 2 weeks later in the mail, she sent an original work of art autograph to this young man. The young man is autistic, and I just could not stress to Rosemary what an impact she has on him. We were able to present this work of art to him in an all academic awards assembly at his school that he would probably not have gone to because of the number of students in the auditorium. But they all gave him a standing ovation, and he just was so taken by the gift that she had given to him. So it is a place for everyone. We also take study tours every 2 years to visit our artists and authors in their homes and studios. And several years ago, we pulled up on a motor coach in front of the home of Norman Bridwell, the creator of Clifford the Big Red Dog. The house is red, the 2 cars were red, the license plate said Big Red Dog 1, Big Red Dog 2. We walked through the house to get to the backyard, the refrigerator, the stove, the microwave, the table, the washer, dryer, anything and everything you could imagine being red was red. And Norman is drawing on an easel, and we couldn't see what he was drawing, and he's telling us stories for about 45 minutes. And at the end, he said to us, just once, I would have loved for Scholastic to allow me to show Clifford at his real age of 88, which happened to be how old Norman Bridwell was. And he turns the easel around, and he showed us this image that he was drawing while telling us stories, and that is Clifford at 88 years old. So every 2 years, we go to a different part of the country. We see how they work, where they work, what inspires them. And we take teachers, librarians, docents, students with us to really gain the appreciation of these illustrators and these authors and what they create on a daily basis for us to share. And this is the Matthew Reinhardt that is very much a part of our paper engineering movable book area, which is housed in the Leho Gallery here at the Mazza Museum. But he is someone that is creating daily in this format, and we're grateful for that. To see his work come up to life out of the pages of his books, and then to see the reactions from the children of all ages, to see the look on their faces when you open one of his books is truly, truly magical. And here's another one of his books from his dinosaur book. We, a year ago, opened a brand new STEAM center. It's a science, technology, engineering, art, and math, medicine, and music, where we take those different areas back through the art found in picture books and then bring them to life in this space. So you'll get to see this when you visit. This is an example of our Chihuly chandelier that students make from recyclable plastics, and these are hanging in the outside of the 5th grade school buildings here in the Findlay City system. Other parts of the new STEAM Center, we have a water wall that we use with 8th graders to show the different types of soil found in Ohio, and how the runoff when rain happens, how it is affected by the different types of soil here in the state. We have pneumatic tubes in the museum that are used in many different ways as well. We're using the Wacom tablets, as many illustrators have moved to using digital technology as a part of their creative process. We have those available for the illustrators to work with students and to show their techniques and how to use these new technologies that are available to them today. Lego wall. We have a program for families called Fun Day Sunday. It runs November through April, generally the first Sunday of every month. And it's a day for families where we take art and literature and have 25 different stations related to a theme where students with their parents can interact and spend time together in art and literature based type activities. We have Tales for Tots for preschool kids that involve music, art, and story time. We have a STEAM camp, which is in June, along with a summer conference where we have these author illustrators that will be speaking for that July 17th, 18th, and 19th. Carmen Dede, her husband John McCutcheons will be presenting or be in concert on that Tuesday evening, the 18th. If you would like to come and be a part of the conference, you can also hear him in concert along with hearing the rest of these authors and illustrators speak. We also have an artist workshop, which is July 24th through the 28th, where we have many different illustration type techniques that are used with the kids. At the end of the week, they then showcase their works to their parents and grandparents. And then the weekend conference is November 10th and 11th, and we have 6 different author illustrators working with us for a conference on that Friday evening and then full day Saturday. Merle Peak sent us some original works of art a few years back, and in the book or in the box of artwork that we received was a note. Merle had never been married, never had children, and he says that what a relief and joy it is for me to have found a place for my children to live, and his children referring to his works of art. And he said, for this, I'm most grateful. And we are most grateful to be a place that can showcase these original works of art for all of our visitors. And I hope that on October 1st, you will be able to come and to be a part of that trip. And I look forward to meeting you in person, if not at the conference, for sure, here on that Sunday. And we can show you the museum and many of the treasures that we have here to be loved and enjoyed by all of our visitors. So I thank you for allowing me to be a part of this day. I look forward to seeing you in the future. All the best to you and all that you do. Take care.
Super. All right, so super quick. Ben Sepp, are you out there? Just to make sure. I don't think he's here today, but good. Okay. Right. Come join us. Come join us in September/October, and we'll get to see some of the great stuff that's going on there at the Mazza Museum. All right, so we're running a little bit behind schedule today. We've got about a half an hour yet more. We're going to hear from Keith Allen. He's going to talk a little bit about being a site host for the Cleveland conference, and he's also going to lead our Make and Take activity. That PDF did not go out until this morning, so if you missed it this morning, it'll all be available later. You can print it off and do it using the recording a little bit later. But we're going to roll forward. Let me introduce Keith for you. Super quick check. Keith Allen, are you out there? Okay. So Keith is on staff at American Greetings, which is located in Cleveland. He is the creator of the What a Mess pop-up book, which was a Kickstarter project they launched that was super successful. He's a longtime member of the society, acting as site host for the Cleveland conference, Make and Take project, rolling up ahead of us soon. Emily, let's cue the video.
Movable Book Society. My name is Keith Allen. For those that don't know me and for the ones that do, good to see you again. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry that I'm missing the show and tell today. We're at the stage of life where our kids are involved in a million different things, and we have to take them every which way over the weekend. So this Saturday, I'm either at a basketball game or soccer game or drum lessons or somewhere. I'm driving around somewhere. So I'm sorry I can't be there with you, but thanks so much for having me share a little bit about my work and my studio, and then give a plug for Cleveland. Woo woo! Excited, very excited that Movable Book Society is coming to my neck of the woods. So I'm not originally from Cleveland. I grew up in Pennsylvania, State College, Pennsylvania, and then I went to school at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. From the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, during graduation, we had like portfolio day, and this company, American Greetings, came, saw my portfolio, and asked me to come to Cleveland for an interview. And I thought, like, Cleveland, the mistake by the lake. There's no way I want to go to Cleveland. So actually, I wanted to stay in Pittsburgh, but the school was like, you gotta go to this interview, and I went. And I love Cleveland. I love it. I think you will too. It gets a bad rap, but it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. There's lots of great stuff. So I'm excited that Movable Book Society is coming here as we kind of like show you some stuff around. Let me give some plugs for some cool stuff around Cleveland. If you like art, the Museum of Art here in Cleveland is free, and it's amazing. So if you got some free time, that would be on the top of my list for you to check out. Just going to show you around. This is my humble little studio, which I share with my wife, who sits over here. and she's a nurse practitioner and sees patients, and I have to get kicked out every once in a while when she's seen a patient. But it's nice sharing a studio with her. I work from my home 3 days a week now since the pandemic. So I still work at American Greetings, and I live in Westlake. American Greetings is in Westlake. So Cleveland is very spread out. We're about maybe 15, 20 minutes from downtown. But it's a great little city. Westlake is. I can bike over to work. It's about 5 minutes. Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice balance to be able to go on the work for 2 days a week and then be here the other 3 days. And then I'm gonna give a little sneak peek at American Greetings, since that's going to be on our tour for when Movable Book Society comes. So I have some little quick videos of just some neat little spots at the American Greetings building, and I'll show you my cubicle. So I got a little bit more space than this. You know, it seems like a quaint little studio, but yeah, this is my workspace here. I work on like a Wacom tablet. That's it there, and pretty tight. And then my drafting table is where I do all my cutting and that kind of stuff there. That's about it. And there's some pop-up books there in my closet. All my favorite finds. So yeah, that's it. And then so I was just going to share with you some of the work that I've been working on. I have a new book that came out. It's not a pop-up book, but it's like an activity book that you pop out and assemble yourself. And then so what I do at American Greetings, I used to work in the licensing group for a long time, so I worked on stuff with like Disney and Marvel and making products for them. So greeting cards, but also celebrations, party goods. And party goods is sort of where I got my interest in the paper engineering. Started doing centerpieces and things, and then discovering Matthew Reinhardt and Robert Chibuta books and blowing my mind and starting to work on pop-up stuff. So so now I work with Rob Kelly, who's also a Movable Book Society member. I'm sure you're all aware of his amazing work. So I'm fortunate enough to work with Rob. We work on the same team. We work on Magic Moments product. So that just specializes in the pop-up cards and displayable cards. And now we're getting into displayable decor. So it's been an area of growth for the company. So it's been pretty cool to see, them really investing in pop-up stuff. So I'm going to share a little bit of that, and then and show you some of the stuff that American Greetings has cooking. This is a recent book I worked on with publisher Tommy Nelson. So this came out this past fall, and then into the Christmas season. It's a Advent nativity book. So it's not a pop-up book, but it's a activity book that things punch out. So as you go, the first page is part of this base, and the second page is part of this base, and they all just kind of punch out like this. And then as it goes through the time of Advent, so December 1st, you would then punch out December 1st. This whole thing kind of comes out. You would punch out a character. And then they would go into the base on that December 1st date. So everything kind of locks in real nice. That's a thick board. So essentially by the end, this is just a white model that I had working with the publisher, but by the end you build a full nativity where everything locks in, makes it pretty solid. So yeah, it's just a nice story of Advent where you go all the way through, and then December 25th, this baby Jesus comes out and goes right in the middle there. So yeah, it was fun. This was really neat. It was the first time I was working with this publisher. They were great. So I was able to illustrate this. And I started using Procreate on my Apple iPad. And I did all the illustrations on that, which has been really nice because then it's more mobile. And so you can just kind of do it wherever. So yeah, I was able to do all the illustrations on that and then just work through them. It was the first time they did anything really dimensional. So it was it's kind of neat to work with them and get that stuff figured out for them and their manufacturer. So yeah, came out really nice. I'm happy with it. So that's available now. You can just get that on Amazon if you're interested. So now it's Valentine's Day. So this is our big time of year for a greeting card company. So I was just going to share some of the magic moments, pop-up cards I have coming out that I worked on. So I worked in licensing before, so it's kind of neat. We're starting to get we're starting to incorporate more licenses into our magic moments. So this format is call it platform base. So it's got a rounded base, and we can do a lot of neat pop-up stuff on there, and it makes it real dimensional. Makes it like a decor piece that you can leave out, long past even Valentine's Day if you wanted. But yeah, this was licensed by Disney, so it was fun working on Lady and the Tramp and building out that art. Got some foil on there as well, but yep. And these are sold. They're sold at Walmart, but also you might be able to find them in Target, and sometimes some grocers and things will have them as well. But yeah, fun to work on. So, and then working with Rob Kelly and things like that, we kind of developed a few different formats. So we worked on a variety of different bases and things, and then had them patented to get that basic structure, and then kind of build off that structure for a variety of cards. So this one's pretty similar to that. Again, working with Disney. This one's like a two-part piece here. So it's a little tree swing. Oops. This one's a sample that's been used quite a bit, so it's a little worse for the wear, but they'll swing. Got some birds there, different pose on the side. And then a lot of these come with like a little mini card that will come out and write your little message on. Yeah. So, these are coming out just this year. Feels like I worked on them forever ago. It's probably like a year and a half ago we developed these and got them all figured out. It takes that long to get through manufacturing. But yeah, it's neat to see them come out and be at the store. And this is one of our very first magic moments that I was fortunate to work on. This is what we call our diamond base. And this is a very old version. We improved a lot of the locking mechanisms and things, but I really like this one. How it's laser cut. Got a lot of laser cutting going on in there and some foil. But that's been one of our top sellers. So it's made it to a couple different Valentine's Day. I think this is maybe the third year it's out. But yeah. So yeah, those are some of my recent cards. We got a lot of really neat stuff coming out. So when Movable Book Society's here in Cleveland, we should have a lot of really cool stuff to share. All right, so that's my work in my home studio. And so again, I'm super excited to come into Cleveland, and that'll be in the fall. And Cleveland, we have a very pretty fall. The leaves change and the weather's nice, and we have the metro parks. So if you want to go for a hike, Google the metro parks in Cleveland. It's pretty awesome. There's tons of trails and things. But anyway, we don't have a spring. It's cold and nasty, and our winters aren't great. But lucky for you, you're coming in the fall, and it should be a really nice time of year to come. So let's head to American Greetings real quick, and then we'll come back here for an activity, and I'll keep plugging Cleveland and give you some more tips on some sweet hot spots. So let's go. guys. That's a short sneak peek of American Greetings. Looking forward to seeing you soon, Movable Book Society in Cleveland, and lots more to share. There's a art gallery behind me. We can go to the creative studios and see lots of really cool stuff. So see you soon.
Nice.
All right, so
And you
should I?
can sit still for a moment. There's a lot of moving camera there.
Yep. And I think the make and take is a little more stable.
Right.
That's just his desktop. So now is the time for you all to get out your materials. Because I'm going to start rolling the film for that. And if you did not yet print out your materials, or you're just not ready, or you just don't feel like it, it is always available as a separate video, as well as inside the greater presentation. So you always have a chance to revisit it.
Emily, quick question.
Yes.
Do we suspect that Keith is moving at a brisk clip through his demo there? Is
No,
it chance that folks might need to circle back later to?
Yeah, I mean, you may wish to, if it's going too fast for you. It didn't seem super fast to me, but I'm kind of making these things, so it's hard for me to judge.
Okay,
So I'm gonna show you
let's do it.
second video.
All right, Movable Book Society. Hopefully you enjoyed that sneak peek at American Greetings, and now you're ready to do a little paper engineering yourself. So I have the activity here, and let's get to it. All right, let's get going on our Cleveland Rocks pop-up displayable. So this is what we're making here. Should be pretty sturdy. And you can put it there to remind you to come to Cleveland for the next Movable Book Society conference coming soon. So let's, it should just be one 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Hopefully it's printed on. It doesn't have to be real heavy cardstock. This one's pretty thin. Everything will lock in pretty well, but we're not using any glue. We're just going to be using some locking tabs today. And tools, if you have them, just need a ruler. It could be small. I use this little guy for our straight edge. If you have a bone folder, it's great for folds. If you don't, fingernail, or maybe the back of a pen, or butt end of a X-Acto blade, that'll get your folds. We don't have a ton of folds in this one either. This might require an X-Acto blade. We have some internal cuts. If you don't have one, don't have a cutting mat, that's okay. The smallest pair of scissors you have, and I'll show you a little trick, maybe for doing some of those internal cuts that we're gonna do. So let's get started. We'll start on the top piece, this Cleveland Rocks piece, and because Cleveland rocks, I'm going to talk about some of the sweet things that you should check out when you come to Cleveland for the Movable Book Society conference coming up. So I talked about the Cleveland Museum of Art. So that's over at University Circle. It's close to downtown. The art, Cleveland Museum of Art is free to go in, and it's amazing. It's humongous, just incredible. Floors of just amazing art. It's one of my favorite places to go, so I recommend that if you have the time. So we're just going to cut. If you look close, there is a white outline going around the perimeter of this. We're going to cut that first. So why don't we just start cutting that, and then we'll go in and do our folds after. So you can just start cutting along. Start here. So in University Circle, there's also some other museums. There's the Natural History Museum is right by there, which is pretty great. And not far, if you want to go for a little walk, the Cleveland Institute of Art is not very far from there. Also, the Museum of Modern Art is right by the Cleveland Institute of Art. You could head down that way. And right by there is also Little Italy, which is one of my favorite places to go. They have an amazing bakery there called Corbo's Bakery. If you like Italian baked goods, that is the place to go. Go and get yourself a cannoli. That's pretty great. And just some authentic Italian cooking down there. They have a big party every year. The Feast of the Assumption is a pretty big deal in Cleveland. And if you're here during that time, it's a pretty wild party. I don't go down there so much anymore. I'm getting older, but in my younger days, it was pretty great. Okay. So we should have cut around the perimeter here. Just watch this area right here. So we're going from this fold tab all the way in. We're going to cut in to where that fold line is. If you see that there. We can just go ahead and pop that out. There's our Cleveland Rocks piece. So you should see there's 3 fold lines. There's one down right the center. There's one to the left of the B, just right there, and one to the right of the C. And as you can see, that notch kind of cuts in there. Cuts in there. Okay. So to get our folds, we're just gonna find our straight edge bone folder. Again, you can use the back of a pen or your fingernail. We're just gonna line up that fold, run over it a few times, find that one next to the C, run over that a couple times. The B. There we go. All right. So we're gonna want to fold this that way. Just gonna tent that there. Look like that. And on our B tab, we're gonna fold this all the way back, right behind it. And on our C tab, we're gonna fold that all the way back, right behind it. So it should look like this. All right. Once you have that done, a little Cleveland Rocks, we can set that aside. And we'll move on to the next. All right. So, talking about Cleveland Rocks and rock and roll. Do you know we have the Cleveland Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is in Cleveland. If you've ever seen those induction ceremonies, they're here in Cleveland. So that's downtown. That's close to the Brown Stadium. We have a science center right over there that's right by the water. It's pretty awesome. If you have some time to check that out, I recommend it as well. We're gonna go ahead and cut this piece out. So again, you can see there's a white line around the perimeter. If you look close, right by the wrist here, there's a cut that comes all the way in to that fold. So note that we're gonna cut into that spot. Same here with these little tabs. So we're gonna cut up around this tab and all the way into that fold line. Around this tab, all the way into that fold line. So let's go ahead and we'll cut the contour first, and then we'll go and do our folds. So if you have an X-Acto blade, you can go around. And again, if you have scissors, feel free to just cut around there as well. So these lines are white and kind of thin. That's just to hide them a little bit. So they're not so visible after we build this. Let me just go ahead and start cutting there. But yeah, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's been a lot of years since I've done it. I did a half marathon last fall at the Rock Hall, and it was pretty neat. It was put on by them. They had a lot of rock music going along the way, which is pretty fun. It's cold weather. It's right along the lake there, so there was some lake effect. Cold weather coming up, so that wasn't super fun, but very pretty. It's a neat place. Also downtown, we have the House of Blues. They have a lot of concerts and things come through there. So there might be something playing around that time. But over by House of Blues, that would be East 4th Street, which is a really neat area in downtown. They have a lot of great restaurants and bowling alleys and other fun things to do downtown. Bars, of course. And we got a casino not that long ago, so if you like to gamble, I guess there's a casino there. But yeah, you know, Michael Simon, he's a famous celebrity chef. So he's pretty famous in Cleveland. He's got a few restaurants, but in the East 4th, there's a restaurant called Mabel's, and Mabel's has really good barbecue. It's a really neat place to go. It's just his restaurants have like a really neat aesthetic. So that might be worth checking out if you're around that area. You know, there's Tower City. If you've seen the movie A Christmas Story, it'll seem very familiar. That's Higbee's in the movie. So if you can see, that's where we cut in right there. So we're going to come around. We're going to cut that part there. So make sure that's cut in. All right. We should have our contour cut. There's our little rock horns on an X-Acto blade and a mini ruler. There we go. All right. So on these A tabs, we should have cut, maybe I didn't do it. From this notch all the way to the fold, we're cutting a line in. So make sure that we don't cut off these notches because they're important, but we're cut all the way in where that fold is on that A tab. Does that make sense? Okay. We have 3 fold lines here. So from this internal cut we did all the way in there, we're going to fold that down right in the middle. And then on those A tabs, we have a fold there and a fold there. So you just go ahead and line up your ruler to those fold lines, give it some pressure. There we go. Just like that. So, all right, so now with those folded, we're gonna tent this one a little bit right down the middle. Just want to fold just like that. Again, that cut there, so that you leave that hand without getting a fold in it. Should stay flat, just like that. And then these tabs are gonna fold back on themselves, just like that. So it should look, make sure it's taking that little notch with it. And this one, same deal. And pull back, should just look just like that. Yeah, rock and roll. All right, we have our Cleveland rocks and our rock horns. Now we're ready for our base. I'm just gonna cut. All right, so this is our last piece. Save this one for last because it does have internal cuts. So let me just show them to you quick because they are kind of light. So we have this A internal cut here. We have these 2 notches that are coming off the contour. We have a B notch there, a C notch here, and then a little shape there and a shape there. For internal cuts, again, that X-Acto blade is great. I recommend that. If you don't have it, I have recommended before, if you have something that could make a pinhole and you have a small set of scissors, you could always poke through on corners and then take your scissors and go into that hole to then be able to cut. Little trick. However, this time we're gonna go ahead and use our X-Acto blade, just because it makes it a little bit easier. So food, I like food. So there's a lot of great places to get food in Cleveland. If you like corned beef, there's a Cleveland favorite called Slyman's, who gives just ridiculous size portions of corned beef. Get a Reuben. It's pretty amazing food. So I recommend that if you're just looking to find a sandwich somewhere. Ice cream, I love ice cream. We have Mitchell's ice cream. They have them all over Cleveland. They use only natural ingredients and that are farmed here in Ohio. They even around downtown, you can even go and see how they're making the ice cream. But I recommend their ice cream if that's what you're into. So I just made our internal cuts. Make sure you're going straight across, but then coming up, straight across, up, up, notch, notch. Make sure we cut out our A's in there. So if we made all those internal cuts, there's no folds on this one at all. All we have to do is go ahead and cut out our contour. So just go ahead and cut that out. If nightlife and bars and that kind of stuff is your deal, the Flats is a great place downtown to go to. It's right on the water. The Flats were a really like big deal, I guess, back in the, let's say, was it the 80s or 90s? I don't know. I wasn't here. But they something happened and the whole place got shut down and the Flats went away. Well, they revitalized that area not that long ago, and it's now a pretty hopping place with piano bars and lots of cool nightlife kind of things. So, all right, now we have our three pieces. We have our base, we have our Cleveland rocks, and we have our rock horns. Pretty easy to put this thing together. But we'll start with A. So let's take our horns. See how we have A marked in a tab? It's real easy. Then we just find those slots right there. A. We're just going to line them up. Make sure these are tucked back. Hold them together. And then we're going to slide this right through. Okay, slide it all the way through there. And it should go in pretty easy. And then we're going to look at our back here. So because we cut these little notches in here, this will be able to pop up. If we didn't cut these notches, it's going to be too tight and we're going to rip. So make sure those notches are cut on either side of this slit. Okay. All right. So after that's there, we're just going to pull that up. It should just pop right out. And we get those two tabs coming through. Okay. So now when we fold this up, you have these two cuts here. I'm going to take that notch, feed it right into my slit. Take that notch, feed it right into my slit. And it should just lock into place. Just like that. Now you can shake it all around and it's pretty secure in there. No glue required. Anytime I can do locking tabs and avoid glue, I'm a happy man. I'm very messy with glue, so I try my best to avoid it at all costs. All right, so our next step, BC on the Cleveland rocks. So we do have two tabs or two slots for our tabs. We have B here, C here. All right, so let's go ahead and just feed B in. Remember, we're going to make sure that this is tucked back. Let's hold it with this finger as we slide it in. Okay, so that one's going to go in. Same issue or same deal with C. We're going to push that back. Make sure they slide in together. Like so we're going to go to the reverse side of our stand. And so when we cut those internal cuts, remember we cut these up. And we should just be able to, same deal, just pull on this and it should snap right out. Just pull on this a little bit. There we go. Locked into place. Now remember we have these little notches. And those are for those extra tabs, just to make sure it's locked in place. It won't move. So we should just be able to slide this right through. And even if we want to make sure it's secured, we can go to this side. Just kind of tug on it a little bit. It's nice and secure. Here, we're going to slide this right through. Come around the other side. Tug on it a tiny bit. And there we go. Should be pretty solid. Should be able to just drop it. Stand on your desk. And there you go. A little reminder that Cleveland rocks. And I hope you're getting excited, as I'm getting excited that you're coming soon. So hopefully we'll see you. And I'll keep dropping some tips on places to go.
Larry and Isabel will also be putting together a list. So if you're coming to join us in Cleveland, someone just turned themselves into a rabbit on their screen. We're falling apart fast. So there'll be a list published as well with all of those great suggestions. Great, thanks for sticking around to the for another 27 minutes, folks, and seeing all of Keith's good stuff. Next Zoom's going to be in May. We don't know who's going to be talking yet, so keep an eye on the Movable Book Society website. We've got a page there for the Zooms. All the information is there. There's a page on the website for the conference. It'll be going up this month, so keep an eye on that. All previous Zooms are also uploaded to that Zoom page, so take a look at previous recordings of the presentations, also the make and takes. Emily, are there any other housekeeping points that I need to add here as I'm looking at my list?
I think we've done everything. We had 114 people at max. I think 114. Kyra said 7 countries. I lost, here it is. Yeah, 7 countries and all over the world. Thank you all for joining us. I'm gonna do something that I usually forget to do, which is to put up our closing thing, which makes my editing work a little better.
Right, so here's the formal goodbye and thank you.
And I'm gonna edit out all of my blathering just at the moment, but I have to find enter full screen again. So thank you all for coming.